This is different.
It's going to be loud.
Yep. All right. Let it rip.
What did you guys like about Justin?
Quiet confidence. You go back and watch him at Ohio State. Big arm. Understands how to run an offense when given the opportunity. And just a really, really good person, really intelligent person that knows football.
I think 3 of his 4 biggest rushing days came against Detroit.
Yep.
As I'm sure you know. How much did that factor into wanting him, and how much can that dimension help the offense?
Listen, obviously we want to utilize his legs, all right, but we also want him to play quarterback. This offseason, we're going to allow him, doing OTAs, to go out there and run an offense. And we're going to make sure we surround him with the right type of people. It's going to make him successful. And you're right. I mean, against us, he did create some damage. And that is one of the reasons why, I want him to be a part of what we're doing. But I think he's a dynamic player. And I think there's more that we can get out of that player. And I'm looking forward to that.
Why does he fit what you want to do?
Say it again?
Why does he fit what you guys want to do this year, your first year?
He's a big man, for one. He's tough. He understands the game. And I do think he brings the dimension to this game that a lot of people are trying to create around this league that we could take advantage of. So I want to try to utilize that as much as possible.
Do you feel like there's, untapped potential there, like that he hasn't really reached the ceiling yet? Like there's another level?
I do feel like that is. That's why I said we're going to let him play quarterback. I mean, that's what he's always wanted to do. And listen, I'm not saying that he hasn't had a chance to do that in other places, and that's not my issue. But I know what I want to do with that player, and I obviously want to utilize his legs, but I also want to give him a chance to go out there and play quarterback.
When we spoke to Darren yesterday, he said Justin's the starting quarterback. He's the QB1. He said Tyrod will see out his heels, but he's the QB1. Why give him the starting job rather than have like a competition with Tyrod during camp? I
don't think no one's going to say there's a competition. This team is going to be built on competition. Listen, just because you won on the depth chart, that's all written in pencil. This league is about competition. And the elite athletes, they thrive on that. So just because he's quarterback one doesn't mean that Tyrod's not going to be on his heels. Everybody has to you got to have a depth chart. That's what this league is. But there's going to be competition. And he knows that. Tyrod knows that. And that's across the board. Every position on this team is going to be competition.
With Justin being penciled in as the starting quarterback, though, and having that skill set like you were talking about, which is so unique.
Yep.
How much does that help Tanner and you guys when you're constructing the offense now that you know or have a general idea of exactly the type of player that you're going to play?
Listen, here's what I when it comes to the type of offense that we're going to run, offenses and defenses built around the personnel that you have. So I don't want to sit here and say this is who we're going to be. Tanner's going to do a really good job of figuring out everybody that we're going to have in totality on that offense, and we're going to build an offense to what they can do. So I don't want to sit here and say, man, we're going to run the ball. We're going to be this play action. Hell, we got to see what we got. And once we see what we got, then we're going to build an offense around that. And Tanner's going to do a really good job of that.
What was it about Jamie Sherwood that made him a priority that you want to keep on his team?
Really, really good communicator. He can run. He has coverage ability. And you just watch him on tape and the way that he talks and reacts to all the players around him and the way the players react to him, let you know he is a true quarterback of a defense. And we want to make sure we have that on defense. So getting him was critical for us to continue to build this defense.
How do you feel like he fits in with your defense?
We want to sign him if I didn't think he would fit in.
No, I said how. How do you think he fits in?
He fits in very well. We want to sign him if I didn't think he could fit in.
What did you guys like, Aaron, about Brandon Stevens?
Big, physical, man corner. Can deny the ball, as we've seen with a lot of PBUs that he had. The one thing that he has to work on, which you all know, is creating turnovers. We will work on that. But when you have 2 big guys on the edges like we have, that creates a lot of issues for an offense. So we want to make sure we utilize that as much as possible.
For those of us who didn't see him play last year, right? We see the numbers. It looked like he was close in coverage a lot.
Yeah.
Just didn't get the ball. Is that just ball skills? Is that just getting your head around? What is it that he has to kind of do to get to?
Well, for us right now, it's us coaching him. Okay. And that's all I worry about right now. Us coaching him to be able to make those plays. Us coaching him to be able to not just be close to receiver, but making plays on the ball as much as possible. So once I saw that within that player, And I know that we have the coaching staff that can get that out of him.
What kind of transition is it going to be for Tanner? Because you want to try to utilize Justin's running ability. But
Yep.
Tanner, that was a pure drop back offense, with Goff. So what kind of train? Because he's never been in an offense.
Well, it's apparent that you haven't even seen what he's done over his career. Because when he was in college, under Harbaugh, he had a running offense. So I don't think it's going to be an issue for him.
What about, because we don't know, we haven't met Tanner yet. So what about him, his style, do you believe, I should say, why do you believe he's going to get more out of Justin Fields than maybe anyone else, as, again, from someone who knows him better?
Well, I think there's going to be all of us, not just Tanner. If you look at his career, he's been under Harbaugh, which is a run-and-stall offense. Obviously, he's been under Ben, which when you go back and watch and just really study what we've done, Ben did a really good job of putting everything together. All right, Tanner did a really good job of operating the passing game to make sure that it coincides with what we did on the running game. And that's what Steve Hayden, my offensive line coach, did a really good job of also. So I have all the confidence in the world that he can take all that information that he's learned and be able to create an offense for the guys that we have.
Aaron, what did you know about Andre Cisco before free agency, and what made him the guy you wanted to get?
Well, I remember watching him in college, and we had Ife Malafanu on our team, who was his teammate, and he talked about him all the time. I know he's a big man. He had really good ball skills. Listen, I know last year, I don't know what happened in Jacksonville, but I know who that player is, and I'm looking forward to that player being a leader of our secondary.
Aaron, how do you feel about your receiver room, and what do Josh Reynolds and Tyler Johnson bring to it?
Well, listen, I know Josh very well, not just from being in Detroit, but he went to Texas A&M, so I had a relationship with him then. The thing about Josh is Josh really starts out as a really, really good blocker. All right, so he's going to be able to help us create explosive plays in the run game. And that's one thing that we talk about quite a bit. If you don't block, you don't get a rock. So those guys get that. And for him to be able to beat one-on-one coverage the way he did in Detroit, I'm looking forward to seeing him do that again. When it comes to Garrett, we all know what Garrett can do. Garrett is a dynamic player. So I'm looking forward to being able to get him the ball as much as possible.
Hey, G, when you were doing that initial scout of your roster, what did you think of DJ Reed, and what kind of effort did you guys make to maybe bring him back?
Listen, I remember DJ. DJ, so I think he started in San Francisco. Did he play in San Francisco?
Yeah.
And then he was in Seattle, correct? Listen, he was scrappy, feisty. I ended up talking to DJ quite a bit before that, just from his free agency from coming out. Man, I just thought he was a man's man as far as playing the game. And he's not just a cover corner. He's one that'll go out there and tackle, too. So I think Detroit's getting a dynamic player at a corner.
Historically, it's been difficult for African Americans to get these general manager positions. We look at Brad Holmes, who's been around for the last few years. What do you think's made him different? What stuck out right away to make him be successful in Detroit so far?
Listen, I think Brad has his own style of doing things. I think he does a really good job at that. His communication with not just the head coach, but all the coaches, I think was phenomenal. And understand exactly what the team needs as far as position to make sure that defense, offense, special team is successful. So I don't care what color, just the way he go about his business. Right, he deserves to be a GM, and I think he's one of the better GMs in this league.
You guys lost some talented free agents.
Say it again?
You guys lost some talent in free agency. From an overall standpoint, from the outside, it might look like the roster is maybe a little bit more of a question mark than it was before free agency started. Just where do you think the roster is at, and how confident are you in being where you want to be heading into the season? I know you're not done yet.
Listen, we're always trying to build this roster. We're always trying to get the best players that we can. I'm not into comparing roster for roster, but I am into looking at who we have and making sure we build this team the way that we need to build it in our image. So I like the roster. I do think there's room for improvement, and we're looking for that in the draft now.
Why was it such a focus on getting younger with this roster? You guys only signed like one guy.
Well, it's a young man's game, and I was always taught that you can't be afraid of the young player. So I think what you're able to do, you're able to mold these guys into who you want them to be and what type of team you want to be. And I think me and Moose did a really good job of trying to create that. I think every situation that we want to create when it comes to free agency we hit, as far as getting the quarterback that we want and getting the quarterback of the defense, trying to make this team younger. So we're looking forward to these young guys going up that plan.
Aaron, how would you describe the battles that you and Ben Johnson used to have going up against each other, his offense, your defense, in practice every day?
To me, I look at it just like players. elite coaches thrive on competition just like elite players do. So every day there was a competition between me and him on who was going to win, and neither one of us backed down from that. And I think that makes you a better team when you can go about your business that way. And listen, every day you compete. Every day there's a winner and a loser. And if you do lose, you come back the next day, you try to win. And we look at it that way.
He said that during the interview process, you guys were kind of in a bunker somewhere in the team facility, like you going through your interviews, him going through his. Were you guys interacting after that? Like, what was that process like?
Obviously we did talk afterwards, but listen, that was just part of the process. I mean, at that point, we had a chance to interview. I think we had the bye week at that time. We had a chance to interview for those teams that want to interview us, and we went about our business the right way. So obviously there was some conversation between us, how the interviews were. But other than that, it was just part of the business.
Do you think Jordan Travis will be ready to go for OTAs, and what are your plans for him?
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you that.
What are your plans for him this year?
If he's ready to play, he's going to compete.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously haven't seen him because of his college injury. How much do you know about him through the scouting process, and what kind of quarterback is he?
Well, from his days in college, I think he was a pretty damn good player. So once he gets a chance to be clear to get ready to compete, he'll compete.
With Justin Aaron, I think the one criticism that's often associated with him is processing. Like, he needs to improve his processing. How does a quarterback go about it? How do you improve your process?
Well, that's everybody's opinion.
Yeah.
I think he's able to process well when he's given the opportunity. If you go back and watch him in college, he was able to process, he was able to progress as far as reading coverages. So to me, I think he's had a chance to do that. I think he did it pretty well.
With the tackle you signed for New England, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. Are you going to him Chooks?
I'm not going to try to pronounce his name
either. let's call him Chooks, right?
I like it.
The story about he left the team in New England.
Yeah.
How much investigation did you have to do on that to find out what happened, and how did you reach a comfort level with the guy leaving the team?
We did a good amount of investigation on that, and to me, being able to talk to the player and trusting the player and trusting his process is important. And I think that goes with every player. I try to make it a point to have a conversation with every player on that team and just get a chance to know who they are. And same thing in the free agent process. Get a chance to talk to every player and get a chance to understand who they are. And I felt comfortable with his answers. So I think he's a really good player. He's going to get a chance to go out there and compete. Obviously, we're trying to build this O-line to be a dynamic O-line, and we feel like he could be a piece of that puzzle.
What was it about Brandon Stevens that made you stood out in free agency, made you want to make a decision?
This is the second time somebody's asked me that question about him. But he's a big, physical corner that can run, and he gives us a chance to have two big guys on the edge with him and Sauce to be able to be disruptive in press coverage. So the thing that I know, and again, I'm going to say this, his ball skill is something that we have to work on, and that's something that we're going to do a good job of making sure that we teach on a daily basis with that player, because, man, he has everything in his body to be a damn good corner, to be an elite corner, because of his size, because of the physicality of that player, and because he can run.
You have a pretty unique defensive back coaching room from you, Dre Black.
Say it again?
Unique defensive back coaching room, like guys who have defensive back in the league. Like how much does having a group like that, like how much will that help developing guys like Brandon Stevens and these young players?
Well, I think Chris and Block comes in with a respect factor of guys that has done it. But I also tell those guys, listen, this is a new generation of player, and the respect that you got as players, your knowledge of what you can teach. So regardless if they play it or not, that's great because they come with the respect already. But it's the way that they teach that's going to give them more respect than anything. So I'm looking forward to seeing those guys get their hands on those players, get a chance to teach and improve what they can do.
Justin obviously has a past relationship with Garrett Wilson. Did that play any impact, and what kind of impact can that have on your offense?
Listen, that helps. It does. But, man, we were just trying to get the player that I felt that I wanted to run this team as far as quarterback. So it just so happened they were teammates. I think they both were happy about that also. But the fact that we got Justin was more or less, man, this is the vision that I'm looking for as far as the quarterback. And to be able to get that player was outstanding for us as a team.
Have you had a chance to spend time with Garrett yet at all?
Yes, I have.
He seems unhappy. last year at times. Did you get a sense that he wants to be a Jet? He's happy here. He's excited about the season.
Well, I wasn't here last year, so I don't care. I know right now, to have a lot of good conversation. That's all I care about.
He seems like he's in a good place when you talk to him.
Yeah, he's in a good place. So, I don't care what happened last year.
No, I got you.
With Sauce, how do you see? He came out of the gates his first couple of years. He did everything you could do.
Yep.
By most accounts, he had kind of a down year last year. How do you see it from your perspective?
Listen, I wish this league was a league where, man, you could just be on top every play, every year. And listen, I say that respectfully of the players that of the players in this league. I know on a first-hand basis, as I go through my career, man, there were some years that I didn't play as well. But numbers-wise, it seemed like it was good because I think his numbers, as far as I'm not talking about interceptions, I'm talking about his ability to deny, his coverage ability. I thought those were pretty good. And that's just part of this league. Man, this is a grown man's league. And every year, you're not going to be at the top of your game every year. The thing is, you thrive and you bust your ass to try to do that. The thing is that he has it in him. And you just said it. 2 years straight, he was a damn good player. So it's not like that's gone. It's just he didn't have the year that you guys want him to have. So he's going to have that again because who he is as a player. So I'm not worried about what happened last year with him. I don't think I know is the conversation that we've had and who he is as a man. And I know for a fact that he's going to get back to where he needs to be.
How would you evaluate him as a tackler, Sauce?
He didn't tackle as good as he could have this last season. But I think we all know that he's had his first 2 years, he tackled his ass off. So, again, I'm going to say it like I said before, it's in him. So since we've seen that, he's going to get back to doing that.
What's your opinion about what is he capable of? We saw it the first 2 years. When you look at him as a corner, is it this guy can be the best in the league? This guy is the best in the league. What do you look?
You know what? He can be the best in the league. Obviously, like we just said, he didn't have the best year last year. So and I think every player thrives on trying to be the best. And listen, he has the size. He has all the traits that you want. He's big. He has long arms. He can run. He has the ability to deny the ball. And the one thing that we talk about in this league, and the same thing with Brandon, is I want you guys to recognize those guys as corners, not as man corners. He can play zone. He can play man. He can tackle. He can do it all. And to me, at the end of the day, as a corner, that's what you want to be. That's what you want to represent. I'm a corner, not just a man corner. And both of those guys want to make sure they have that on their nameplate.
You mentioned Steven's ball skills, needing
yep.
to improve ball skills. Do you also see that with Sauce, as that's an area that needs to improve, or because the interceptions haven't necessarily been there, or is that just the targets aren't there, the coverage he was playing? Why do you think that hasn't been there for him?
Listen, you have to take a look at what he's done and the way that he's been playing. When you play your back to the quarterback for the majority of the time, and it's hard to get all those interceptions that you want. But if you look at it, he's denied the ball quite a bit, him and Brandon. So when you play man coverage as much as those guys have, you're going to have a good amount of PBUs, and the interceptions is not going to be there. But that's one thing that I want to work on with both of those guys, is making sure that they can get their head around and locate the ball, be able to intercept those balls.
How does a young Sauce compare to a young Aaron Glenn?
Oh, my gosh. I'm not 6'3", so I don't know about that one. But, man, listen, I'm looking forward to coaching him and Brandon, because they're two big physical men that can run. So I think that gives us an advantage when it comes to our corners.
Aaron, when we talk about Sauce and Garrett, how important is it for the franchise to lock them up long term, and how much of a priority is that as you get further into this offseason?
Listen, they're two young players, and you're going to hear me say this consistently, that, man, I'm in the business of keeping good players. And, that's our plan, and that's with anybody, just like Sherwood, and just like any other player that we draft from this team. I want to make it a trend that our guys that we draft, that we try to keep them here. And I don't know if that had happened before, all right, but I know when I was a player here, we try to do that as much as possible. And to me, that's the best form of free agency, really, is signing your own guys. So as much as we can do that, man, we're going to try to. So it's something that we want to look at. We want to keep those guys, so they're good players. So I'm in the business of keeping good players.
With Winston early in his career, he gave your defense some fits, and obviously you adjusted. But how much did those battles, the competitive nature you showed in those early games, shape kind of your foundation of him as a player?
Well, that's something we talked about earlier. I think every coach in this league when they play against a player that has given them some issues, you want to look into that and see how, if that's a part of what you want to do as a team. And obviously in this league, man, you want to have a quarterback that has the ability to escape and scramble and make those out-platform throws and plays. And he has a chance to do that. So I want to bring that to be a part of what we're trying to do. Obviously he's dynamic, he can run. But man, listen, I don't want that to be what we all talk about with this player. I want this player to go out there and know that he's going to go out there and play quarterback for us. And he's going to have every opportunity to do that. The thing is, I want to use all his legs, yes, but I want him to go play quarterback.
I have a kind of a coaching philosophical question. Sometimes when a defensive-minded head coach gets his first job, they'll try to hire an experienced offensive coordinator so they can lean on someone on not their area of expertise. You hired a guy who's also in his first year. What are your thoughts on that, and how much consideration did you give to hiring an experienced guy, and what gives you the confidence that both you guys in your first year can succeed?
Well, I would say this first. I'm a coach. I just happen to coach defense. I spent a lot of time in the offseason understanding offense, and that's been probably the last 7 to 8 years of my career of trying to expand that knowledge of understanding what I want to do on offense and just everything about offense. So that wasn't a word for me. And listen, I know Tanner he's been a coordinator before. He's called it in college, and I know it's different in the NFL, but he has done it. So it was not an issue for me at all. And I know the things I want to do on offense also. So this team is not just going to be about, my fingerprint will be on every part of this team. Of what I want to do offensively, what I want to do defensively, and on special teams. So in saying that, man, I have all the confidence in the world that Tanner's going to be able to run this offense at a very high level.
What do you think Breece Hall fits in? He admitted last year to losing some confidence, and he's had a little bit of an up and down couple of years since his injury. So where do you think he's at mentally, and where do you think he fits in?
Well, I think mentally he's in a good place. But I would say that we have 3 running backs on this team that we're going to utilize as much as possible. They're all big men. They can run. They're violent. They're physical. So I think once we get a chance to get the players in and see exactly like how they operate, I think every player is going to be happy with the way that we go about this offense, and I think he's going to be one of them.
At Detroit, you really had Ben had a pretty good combination there running with those two. Is that when you were thinking about how you want your offense and envisioning your offense, is that what you prefer, the 1-2 punch of running back as opposed to maybe the bell cow?
Well, we have good players in that position like we do. It could be 1, 2, 3 with the guys that we have. So those guys are good players. So we're going to utilize those guys. If we can get them all on the field we can at one time, we'll do that. But I know this here, man. We want to be a violent, tough, physical team. And those men are really violent runners, so we want to take advantage of that.
Darren said yesterday that you're trying to work through some things with Alan Lazard contractually. Is your hope that he's on the team in 2025?
Listen, anytime you have a player of that magnitude, he's a really good blocker. Listen, I played against him a number of times when he was in Green Bay. So I know what he brings to the table. Hopefully something can work out, but we understand how this business is. And if it doesn't, man, it doesn't. But if it does, man, we're going to utilize his talent the way we need to.
Sort of our offense-defense question, like Rich asked before, with the draft.
Yep.
I imagine in Detroit you were focused on just defensive players.
Yeah.
How different is it for you now? You're evaluating the entire draft.
Yeah. So obviously it's different from just being on one side.
Yeah.
But I've been prepping myself for about 7 to 8 years to be able to do this here. So I spent as much time looking at offense than I did just on defense. So I'm looking forward to the draft. I'm looking forward to those conversations during this following week of the coaching staff with moves, scouts. Understand, man, who fits what we're trying to create here, and making sure that the best player that we can draft, that we'll get those guys. So if that's offense, defense, it doesn't matter. We just want to try to get as many good players as we can.
Do you feel like you guys have, with the moves you made this offseason, do you feel like you put yourself in a position to just get the best possible player at number 7?
Listen, that's what we always want to do, is get the best player, and hopefully that player can fit a need for us. But I think what we try to do is make sure we try to align ourselves with Like, who are the best guys we can draft that'll help us be the best team that we can be. We try to create that as much as possible, man. Just get as many good players as we can, and let us as a staff try to figure out what to do with them.
Aaron, sorry about that. The last couple months been everything you expected it to be. I know you wanted this for a long time, talking in Detroit. Has it been everything you thought it would be?
You know what it has been? You hear that it's a lot of different, information that's coming to you, and it has been. But I think I've been prepping myself for this. It's been fun. It's been educational. But I would say this: I love every part of it. Just being able to be the head coach of this team. Listen, it worked out exactly how I want it to work out.
What's your stance on the touch question?
Say it again.
What's your stance on the touch question?
What's your stance?
Personal question.
I don't have to defend it.
Huh?
I don't have to defend it.
But still, what's your stance? You see?
I got so many friends.
Now, listen. I would say. So you want me to say the wrong thing?
You take it off.
That's all right. Here's. They've done a good job of creating a play that is hard to stop. And to me, when I go back now, I'm in my defensive coaching mentality. My job is to stop that play. And I think I will answer like that. My job is to stop that play. So regardless, it's going to be another play that's going to come out. It's going to be hard to stop. And our job is to stop that play. So I'm going to answer it like that.
That's a diplomatic way. Hey, let me ask you this. So, in recent years, the Jets have always been known as a team that makes a lot of noise and headlines in the offseason, especially the last two with Rodgers.
Yeah.
This year's been kind of on the radar, kind of quiet. How do you like that? Is that by design? Is that the kind of way you want things to work?
It is by design. And listen, I'm a huge believer in just moving in silence and letting things play out like they need to play out. I think our staff has done a really good job of that. Just overall of listen, let's just make the moves that we need to make. Listen, this doesn't need to be a big hoopla of what we're doing. We just want to go about our business and coach these players and try to create an atmosphere for the players that's totally different from probably what they've been used to. And that's something I want to create just in general, of what type of players do we bring into the building, in the building environment for the most part. So, but you're right. I want to move in silence, man, and listen, just go about our business to go win some games, because you don't win in the offseason anyway. I know everybody has these grades on free agency grades. They have grades on draft grades. And when you go back and look at them, they don't really mean crap, So the only thing that makes the difference is what you do during the season.
Is that part of the trying to change the culture? It's just trying to create a different mindset?
Well, listen, culture is about people. And as we continue to get the right people within the building, the culture is going to change. That's something that I've learned a long time ago. Me sitting up there giving a rah-rah speech, that has nothing to do with culture. Coach is about the people that we bring in the building. I'm just not talking about players, I'm about coaches too. I'm talking about support staff too. So we're trying to do a really good job of bringing the right people in the building. And as we do that, the culture will eventually change.
Aaron, when you were coming out of the draft,
yep.
I think there was probably more of a philosophical thing where the players that were drafted sat a little bit. Like, some guys played right away, but there was more to take time to develop. Have you seen, maybe it's because of the rookie wage scale, or an increased pressure that you want best player available, but you also want a player BPA position to need that's also going to play pretty early in their
Yeah. Here's what I think on that, and this for every position. If the player goes out there and practice and he deserves to play, let him play. And there's going to be mistakes. And I'm talking about a young player now. Because I said before, this is a young man's game. You can't be afraid to play the young player. So if he goes out there and he competes and he earns that job, you let him play. But every player doesn't do that. There's some players that doesn't earn the job right away, and obviously you want that player to sit back and be able to learn. But to me, I have that type of mindset going in. Listen, go out there and compete, and whoever the best player is, that's who's going to play, no matter what. If they're not, then they sit back and they learn. But at some point you want him to go out there and play. But that's it. If he gets the job, he's going to play.
Aaron, we talked about how you sign a lot of these young players. Like, how much did you feel like the kind of players you brought in this offseason, an investment in like your coaching staff's ability to get the most out of these guys?
Well, that's who we are as coaches, is to develop. I think that's the number one trait that you look for in a coach. Where number one is being able to teach, and the second thing to be to develop. I talk to our staff about, listen, I want the free agents to play like draft picks. I want our third-round picks to play like first-round picks. I want our first-round picks to wear a gold jacket at some point. And that's the job of coaches. And listen, I hold that to a very high standard in every coach that I have. And that's one of the things I vet out about every coach is how do they develop, because really that's what coaching is. Again, teaching and developing. So listen, every player that we have is not going to be ready-made, and that's okay. And we look forward to that.
Lions fans, should they be confident in your replacement of Kelvin Shepard? How good a job will he do?
Kelvin will do a damn good job. Kelvin's got been prepping for about 3 years. So they have a good, fiery coach. It's similar to who I am as a coach. So he'll do a good job.
Aaron, I think you guys are back in the building in a week for the offseason program.
Yeah.
What do you hope to get out of that kind of extra time you have as a new head coach? What's the objective of those kind of first few weeks with the team?
To me, it's a process, and I've talked to our staff about this. I'm not here to talk about the Super Bowl. I'm not here to talk about playoffs and any of that when the players first get in. To me, it's the process of actually making it to that point. And the two things I want to make sure that we do first and foremost is establish a culture, right, that we've been talking about, and, man, try to create a building environment and understand what phase one is really about. Man, we're trying to get bigger, faster, stronger, and more explosive. And that's the only thing I want the players worrying about at that point. All right, we have a lot of time for scheme. We have a lot of time to talk about Super Bowl and playoffs. But right now, man, building our culture and building our environment, and that building is the most important thing right now to me.
You talked, just getting back to that culture question, you talked about moving in silence.
Yeah.
Did part of that factor into your decision on Rodgers? Because there's no silence with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's just who he is. Nothing against him. It's just the persona he has as a Hall of Fame quarterback. How much did that factor into your decision?
I know who I am, and I know what I want to do. So regardless of how any person is, that has nothing to do with me. I know what I want to do. So that doesn't matter to me.
Aaron, how much have you seen of Jermaine Johnson around the building? What's your impression of him?
Jermaine's been doing a really good job. Listen, I've been knowing him since he came out of college. We actually coached him in the Senior Bowl, and I know exactly what he brings to the table. Listen, he is working his ass off to get back to where he needs to be. And that player has a lot of confidence in who he is. We have a lot of confidence in him. So we're looking forward to him getting back on the field.
The scheme last year, the defensive line, it was wide 9, 10 years back ago.
Yeah.
Which I think really helped Will McDonald. It was just really impressive. Has there been any talk from you? Is your scheme defensive front, or what your defensive scheme's defensive front's going to be? Is it different in that regard? Do you need more edge setting from your ends? Someone's got to put on a little more weight to do that?
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I mean, once we get everybody on this defense that we know we want to get, then we'll build a scheme off of that. Listen, I've been a part of a number of different schemes. I've been a part of the wide 9 when guys get upfield. I've been a part of the react attack where you guys stay square on the line of scrimmage. Once we get all the people that we want to get in this building, then we're going to make sure we get that. Listen, Steve's going to do a hell of a job of being able to do that. He's been a part of building a number of different defenses, as you can see through his career. But we look forward to that. The one thing that we know that we're going to attack, we'll be better against the run. I mean, if you go back and look at what I've done over the last couple of years in run defense, we've been pretty good in that aspect. So we're going to try to continue to create that. But the thing that I know, in fact, we have some guys that can get up to the quarterback. So we're going to be able to utilize those guys too.
Have you had a chance to connect with Pete Carroll yet? Kind of a full circle moment there.
Listen, Pete's one of my guys, man. He was the one that gave me a chance. Listen, every time we have a chance to talk and just connect, we have a good time with that. So I owe a lot to him as a coach, and he'll always be one of my favorite people.
Aaron, what did you see in Chris Fangio when you coached him in New Orleans? Did you see a future coach when you were?
No doubt. Just thinking he was a safety, all right, coming out, and then he was an elite special team player. And I tell you what, if you just get a chance to watch how he interact with players, the players just come through the building, his ability to interact with a number of players in a team meeting setting, he does a really good job of that. He's very energetic. He's everything you want in a special team coach. And listen, he will be one of the better coaches in this league. I know that for a fact.
Well, good, everyone? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All good?
Thank you. Appreciate it.